Why should we study presidential history? Why would we need to know those things that took place in the past like that? Well, for one thing, to get a feel of where you are, to get yourself oriented. You know, you wouldn't want to just be dropped into a wilderness with no compass or no map or no training in how to find out your sense of direction or where you are, no GPS or anything like that. You would want to have a sense of orientation as to how to deal with finding out your position and how to go from there to finding out where you need to go and finding your way out of the wilderness whenever the time comes to do that. And so it's the same thing with studying presidential history. It gets you oriented into where you are now and where you need to go, because certain mistakes were made in the past and also certain good things were done. And you would be surprised to know how many really good proposals that would have helped solve the solutions which have come about later or which we're going through now. How many of those good solutions were proposed by presidents in the past, but for some reason, because of the dynamics of politics and because of maybe not in certain cases having the proper respect for an honor, giving honor, the correct honor to the president, these things were just not passed and just put off as being something that didn't need to be done at the time. And maybe that cost us. And then so we'll end up having to bring that back up again and go at it again because it was something that needed to be done and something that has actually cost us by not doing it. So that's one reason. And then another reason is that we need to understand the thought pattern of each of the presidents that have gone on before the one that is there now. We need to understand exactly what was on there. We need to understand. The more we understand what was on their mind, the more we understand what they were doing and why, and how that a particular mindset created a good situation, or maybe a bad mindset created a bad situation. What was the inspiration? What was the source of their knowledge, and what was the source of their ability to make proper decisions? What was the source of their authority? What was the source of their being able to demand respect? What was the source of their being willing to take on that responsibility? All of these different reasons we need to examine one at a time to understand how the presidency was built and how it's going to continue and how a new president will fit in to that program. Because you basically can never just start from a complete vacuum. You have to start from where you are in the train of events. We have to, in other words, know our place in history. And so we got to find out what that history was and then get a vision for the future in order to know what our place in history is from the time of history began to the future events that are going to take place. And so understanding and really and truly to begin to subconsciously, we need to have a thought pattern developed in our mind that really incorporates all the good points of every president that has gone on before and knows how to avoid the things that were mistakes. And the only way you can really truly get that into your subconscious, you can't just go back every time and look through and go back through everything at the point that you need to make a decision. That has to be in your mind already, subconsciously informing your thought pattern and giving you a way to make a proper decision. The living, breathing effect of walking and talking and living and breathing with our very first president, our second, our third, and our fourth, and so on, clear up to the number 45, living and breathing in their thought pattern and understanding their motivations and understanding the way they think, that puts all of those minds within us so that we have now have 45 minds instead of just one, you know. And then, of course, any other type of literature or wisdom understanding that would go along with that to help us to better understand, you know, and have a better thought pattern and have a stronger mind. But knowing that brings a lot of wisdom to the decision-making process. I think in certain cases we've had presidents that come in and said, well, what any president did in the past is of no value, perhaps. To a certain extent, they did. They said, well, this is a new day, and you know, I'm a new person, and I have a higher education than the presidents in the past had, and so, therefore, let's just, you know, start with a clean slate. And then by doing that, they ended up making a lot of mistakes. And so I think we need to really think about what we're doing in that event and what the value is of spending some time living and breathing the words and the thoughts and the mind of the presidents that went on before. And that is possible. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that that is possible, that because they don't realize how much documentation there is on each of the presidents and how many biographies, how much historical writings there are, how much actual documentations of fact of what they actually said, the writings that they did, the speeches that they made, everything that is not, we're not talking about something that can be toyed with or something that can be mistaken or something that is only something that makes history sound good. Well, I'm talking about that they're the actual documents and the actual speeches and the actual writings and the actual letters which have been factually determined and have been historically documented to be what was actually said, and so therefore the actual thought pattern of each particular president is actually known. It is actually known, and you can actually live in that a while, and you can actually understand it, and you can actually have their mind within you. You know, just think about that. We don't realize that we can have the minds of wise people that lived before living within us now. And therefore, just think about what that would do when you go to make a decision. You know, you have the wisdom of Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Wilson and Roosevelt and all of the presidents, and Nixon and Reagan and all of the presidents that have come before. You have all of their wisdom within your mind to utilize, you know, much as if someone would tend to call in the image of their grandparent or their father or something like that and ask them after they've gone on, you know, just ask them, you know, in the spirit, what is the answer to this perplexing problem I'm going through? And then they know what the mind of that person is because they lived around a while. And so that makes it easier if you did, you know, put yourself in that position and say, well, my grandfather would have done this, my grandfather would have done that, you know, and then you can rest in that because you know that all the things that they did turned out right, and the things that they did were honest and upright, and the decisions they made were based on principle. And so that kind of gives you a rest to know that if you decide it the way they would, that it will come out right. Well, the same thing is about knowing how to decide things according to the way presidents before have settled the issue and thought and made the decision. So there's a lot of wisdom in that. Really and truly understanding presidential history, not just, as some people tend to think, oh, you're going to read a modern book that was written, you know, last year or two or last 5 or 6 years, and you're just going to read that and what that person's idea about what happened in the past, you know, what certain presidents were like, or, you know, they may spend their whole book running them down, one of them down, and never even really get into what they really thought or what they really did. Or they may, you know, overdo it and make it sound better. You know, they may get into just a total revisionist history in order to feel, because they feel like, well, they can make the history better than what it actually was. But if you read the actual writings and statements and letters and the actual speeches that the presidents made, documented, taken down, written down as they made the speech. And now we have of course, the later presidents. We have the CDs, and we have the various other means of preserving that, videos on YouTube, everything, all sorts of manners and documentations in presidential statements in the books and on the internet, and all those different ways of determining what they actually thought, and living and breathing in that rather than just reading some book about it. Although those books are important too. I'm not saying they're not important. I'm saying read those too. But then make sure you examine what the various presidents actually said. And the other thing about that is if you read these speeches of presidents before, you can gain an understanding of how to in your actual speech patterns, and your way of addressing people, and your way of addressing the issues, and the way of getting up and speaking and making a public address can be learned from studying wonderful speeches in the past, many of them of which those that made those speeches mastered the art of oratory and of good English and all these communication skills much better than many people that are living today. And so it gives you an insight. It gives you an insight into good communication, good oratory. And that is one of the things I see lacking in some of the presidents we've had in the past few years, is that good oratory. I mean, making sure the oratory is good. Make sure it's understood by everyone. Make sure that the nuances and the undercurrents and the idioms and everything else that you're using are ones that are understood by every class of people, not just one class of people, but are understood equally by everybody that speaks the English language, and many of them that speak other language, that it's understood in a way that they can grab a hold of it. It's not just something that's understood by your own political party. A president has to make a speech that is uplifting and inspiring and educating to people of all political parties and persuasions. You've got to learn what will be uplifting to all. And then occasionally you can mention on the side these other things that would, that your own political party is in favor of. But the speech needs to include all of these other undercurrents and all these other issues and everything in a way that everyone can understand that. And you gain that ability by studying the presidential history, especially of the addresses and the statements and the writings and the speeches. So that's a reason for studying that too. And gaining everything from gaining vocabulary to gaining speech style, determining what your speech style is going to be by checking out the different speech styles of presidents that go on before. Now, you don't want to be trying to learn from the speech style of some movie star or some person on the news or something like that. You don't know where they got their understanding and where they got their wisdom from. And, many of them, their speech style is poor anyway. You want to get your speech style from great leaders of the past. If you're going to be a news forecast, if you're going to be a news reporter, I get it from them, I suppose. But I don't even know about the wisdom of that. But if you're going to do that, maybe that might work out. But if you're going to be a leader, and a congressman or a senator, or or a president or something like that, get your speech ideas and formats and so forth from those previous great presidents. And so I'm going to pray right now that everyone will understand this, first of all, and they will be able to understand how to find great speeches and study them and understand them, and how they'll have a vision for a greater country where we have leaders that are able to communicate well, pass on their ideas. And if anybody needs to be healed, I pray, Father, in the name of thy Holy Son, Jesus, raise everybody up off their sick bed that needs healing. Heal everybody of all of their their depression, oppression, or their concession, or any other thing like that. We pray in the holy name of thy Son, Jesus. Amen.